Hello there. Hi. Welcome to Butterfly Effect, podcast all about interviewing people. My name is Tristan Ettleman. Before we get to that all about interviewing part, talk about myself for a little bit here. Last week was a tough week. I was doing a lot of stuff. Work and projects, shooting videos about horses and stuff. There's a whole story there. But, in the middle of it, it's like, this is hard. School in the mix, normal schooling. And in the middle of it last week, I was like, I want to lay down and rest. Just give up. Because I'm a weak-willed person. But, it's the beauty of being busy and making stuff that you actually care about to some extent, is that you might be in the middle of it and feeling a little down or whatever, and feeling like, oh man, this is so much, how am I going to handle stressed, whatever. And then, you get outside of it for a second, like I have been for the past few days. This week is going to be much more laid back in terms of workload and stuff. And I'm like, I did some good work there. I'm proud of it, what I did. And makes you feel good. Being busy's good at the end of the day, usually. Kick off your shoes, get into bed, and just go to sleep. That's my main thing, is that I'm like, throughout the day, I'm like, at the end of this day, I'll go to sleep. For some amount of time. Even if it's not a lot amount of time, a large amount of time, it's some time. And that is a refreshing thought. Anyways, on the podcast today, my guest is Eden Rohatensky, and she is a great musician, podcaster, programmer, internet person. She does a lot of stuff. A speaker. She does a lot of stuff. And we talk about that. The conversation kind of circles around that, and that's kind of why I was talking about this earlier, is that Eden is actually a very inspiring person. She does a lot of stuff really well. And that's like, that's the dream, and to not be a quivering pile of nerves. She's got to put together, it seems. And that's amazing. That's great. As I said, it's inspiring, awe-inspiring. I am in awe of it. So anyways, here's the conversation with Eden. I think it went really well. I embarrassed myself at the end with a fun joke on my part. Not intentional, though, so, it makes it all the more funny. So make sure to listen through. See you on the other side. Yeah, I'm in Arizona, and we're like the only state in the United States that does not do daylight savings time.
Oh man, I didn't even have to worry about it.
Yeah. I don't know, I think it was like something in the 30s where the farmers were like, hey, we don't want to deal with that, and they're like, okay, and so then we never had it. So
yeah, that's the exact thing that happened.
I don't really know how that works. Like, they're just like ignoring nature, but whatever. So what have you been up to lately? And do you mind, I'm already recording, we're good to go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're just talking. So what have you been up to lately?
Oh boy, I've been coding a bunch. I've been working on some new albums. I've been writing a book. I've been doing a bunch of art. I've been traveling a ton. Yeah, it's been a busy couple months. Busy 2016.
Yeah, already?
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, I prepare very little for these interviews, just as a heads up. But I was like looking into stuff, and I'm like, I think they call this the slash generation, right? Like doing all these different kinds of things, like, and they're all very different things too. Is that something people comment on a lot?
Not really. Like, people comment on the fact that I'm busy, I guess, all the time. But yeah, like, I don't know. I generally actually try to not talk about it too much unless it's like in a professional context, because talking about myself is generally boring.
Well, we're going to do that for an hour now, but...
No, that's okay.
But yeah, it's just kind of cool that they're all, like I said, different things. Like, coding is kind of, I guess, some would say, is that right brain? What's the math thing, and what's the... and music's more like left brain or whatever.
Yeah,
But
but there's so many crossovers, right? Like, you need to be creative to be able to come up with interesting algorithms that'll be, like, efficient, and you need to have... Or I've found that the fact that I have logic skills and stuff has helped me greatly with music, especially with electronic music and stuff. Like, there's always crossovers and things you learn from the different things you do.
Right, yeah, and I guess that makes sense. Because even music has kind of math involved with it and stuff like that, with rhythms and things. I'm not really musically inclined, so I don't know specific kind of stuff, but I'm assuming stuff like that plays into both.
Yeah, definitely. Hugely.
Yeah. So you're in Saskatchewan, you said?
Yes.
Did you grow up there?
I did. I grew up originally in Calder, Saskatchewan. I lived there till I was 4 or 5. And then I moved to Yorkton, Saskatchewan, and both of those are like, well, Yorkton's a city, but it's very, very small. And then I moved to where I live now 7 years ago, which is Regina, Saskatchewan.
A lot of people make jokes about that place.
Yeah, that's true. Deadpool made a joke about it, and I did not hear the end of it. I had every nerdy friend from not Regina text me, "Did you hear this?" I still haven't seen the movie.
Yeah. Well, so what is Saskatchewan and then those places like? Is it rural?
No,
mostly?
No, like, I live in a city that's about the size of, like, Madison.
Okay.
And there's 2 fairly large cities and then, like, 2 or 3 smaller cities in the province. And outside of that, it is rural. There isn't, like, a metropolis in Saskatchewan, but it's a pretty good mix. There is a lot of farming that happens here. Our economy is based on exports, whether it's like potash or wheat or whatever. But like it's a good mix. It's small. There's like 1.2 million or something population, but it's not like I don't live in the country.
Yeah, and like my Canada experience is very limited because I've been to Alberta and I've been to Calgary and Edmonton. Saskatchewan is right next to Alberta, correct?
Saskatchewan's to the right of Alberta, yeah.
Right, okay. And so are you far away from, like, the big, like you said, the metropolises? Do you go to anywhere like that often, or you just kind of, you got everything you need there?
I mean, we have everything we need here. I travel a lot because it's part of my job. But, like, Edmonton, which is probably the closest, or Edmonton or Winnipeg are, like, 6 to 8 hours away driving. Lots of people take flights, but like we have everything we need here. We don't have an IKEA. That's like a thing that people are upset about. We've got a Swiss chalet recently. It was pretty cool. We've got all the Applebee's and Chili's that you could ask for.
Right. Yeah, it's just funny, like a place like that, like I guess I have preconceived notions, or even like in Phoenix here, right? It's a big city. It's the 5th largest city in the United States, I think. But like, I feel like I'm not creatively fulfilled necessarily here, right? Like bands come through here. A lot of bands come through here, but there's a lot of bands that don't. They just kind of skip over Phoenix, or like a lot of comedians don't come here and stuff like that. So is that the experience there?
No, not at all, actually. So we have, like, a really crazy amount of indie bands that are awesome. I'm on the board for a music festival. Cool. There's a lot going on in terms of art and music here. And part of that is just, like, in Canada we have more grants and stuff that is available to artists, but also it's just, like, it's cold here. A lot of people start bands to do something indoors, right?
Right.
But yeah, like, there's shows going on, you know, like almost every night of the week, and lots of touring bands come through. Justin Bieber is coming through here.
Oh yeah, where's he from? Isn't he from Canada? But where in Canada?
He's from Eastern Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe when I was younger, but I've never really felt like I've missed out on any bands.
Yeah, and when you were younger, you said you lived in like smaller smaller towns?
Yeah, I live like 2 hours away from the nearest city, like nearest big city. Yeah. So.
What did your parents do?
My dad wasn't.
Or still do?
Yeah. My dad's a database analyst. So he's a programmer, like I am. And my mom has worked retail for most of her life. She went to school to be to do pre-law, but then with the divorce and everything, she decided to not continue that because she was a single mom.
So your parents
but
divorced.
Now she works at a pet store.
Oh, pet store. Yeah. What age did your parents divorce?
It was like when I was 2 or 3.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Really, really early.
Yeah.
So my parents divorced when I was 4, so I have like very vague memories, but like I feel like 2 or 3 it was kind of just a status quo.
Yeah, like I have some memories. Like I remember a house that we lived in. I remember like one day like my dad making some burritos or something, and I like remember like very little details about that. I also have a very good memory. Like I remember conversations for years and years and years, and it's like, why do you remember that, Eden? Well, it's because I can't forget, never forget. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't that. It didn't really affect me too much.
Right.
I mean, it is also really normal.
Yeah. It always should have been, but at this point, it's really normal. Like but it wasn't like this traumatic experience that formed you and changed your perception, because some people do have that experience with divorces and stuff like that, and I never did, and usually that's for people that happens like later in life, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure, but so your dad being a programmer, did that inform a lot of what you were thinking you wanted to do? Like, what were you thinking growing up? What you wanted to do?
So my dad, I only saw him every other weekend. So like.
Oh, did you live with your mom?
Yeah, I lived
mostly?
with my mom mostly.
Okay.
And he was a big influence. He did give me like server space on his website
Cool.
to like learn HTML and CSS and have my own little website. But that didn't really inform my decision, I don't think, to become a programmer. I just like really enjoyed it as like a creative experience. Being able to code something and see what that code represented visually, especially with websites. I changed what I wanted to be a lot when I was a kid, and I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a cafe owner at one point. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a gynecologist. I wanted to be a sex therapist. I wanted to be, like, it just, like, it would change, and I would get really into these things. And then the only thing that I, like, constantly wanted to do was make music. And then I didn't really consider that as possible to be, like, my full-time job. But then I started programming, and I was picking up freelance clients and all that, making websites, and that just, like, kind of naturally seemed like a great backup option. But it's kind of worked out that it's, like, my life is pretty symbiotic between the art I make and all the programming I do, because they can kind of feel each other. So it's less like a backup plan or a day job, and more just like I have a bunch of really weird jobs.
Well, that's cool though. So it's less it's less of a you're doing this because you have to until something else happens situation. More like sounds like you're happy with the situation.
Fairly.
With all the stuff, yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty ambitious. I'm not ever really satisfied, but I mean,
sure.
It's not terrible.
That's good. Well, yeah, I mean, like, I work at a movie theater, and I'm like, I'm miserable for the most part. That's not true.
Sorry.
But like, well, no, it's fine. But I'm going to school and whatever, so that's definitely like that's obviously not a career path, But it sounds like the programming at least is something that you enjoy, like, on its own.
Right.
It's not like something that's entirely a means to an end, but you don't want jobs like that, really. So did you go to school, like, for, like, college or anything? University, I think you guys call it up there?
Yeah, I went to the University of Regina, and I studied computer science with a minor in English and a minor in French. And I dropped out.
Oh, yeah?
In my 4th year.
Wow.
And I haven't gone back.
And has anyone given you shit for that? Been like, you should have finished it?
My dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I paid for it, so...
Oh, well then he can't say anything. Yeah, what was the reason? You just...
I got a job.
Felt like it wasn't worth it?
I started working at Vox Media, and then it just, like, didn't make sense to finish it up. And, like, I had been working through my entire degree. I was working at Gas Buddy, and it just got to the point that it was just, like, I was working 30 hours a week. I was doing all this stuff on social media. I was doing music stuff and trying to go to school, and I was just burnt out. And the fact was that I was getting opportunities without my degree. So it was like, at this point in time, this does not make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the dream. I've often thought, like, if I could just get an actual job, then I could just stop the school thing. But
what are you studying?
What
are you studying?
Journalism.
Okay.
And even that's like, what you're saying is describing a lot of my mindset of like, well, I don't know if I want to be this anymore. But for a long time, it was like that was the thing, and specifically like games journalism stuff. But I don't know about that anymore. But so you said you're working at Gas Buddy. Is that a gas station?
No,
I just sound like a gas station. I'm sorry.
Gas Buddy is an app for finding cheap gas.
Oh, okay.
So I started as their designer. I worked as a web developer there for a little while I was in college.
Much cooler job.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
Than a gas station.
We made a lot of websites for a lot of different convenience stores in the States, which is weird because I hadn't actually been to the States until like 2 years ago, since I was 13. Like it was just like a huge gap, so I didn't know of any of these gas stations that, were big chains in the States and were designing their websites and just like completely out of...
What were some of the places you were doing?
I don't entirely remember, and I'm not entirely sure if I signed an NDA about that. So.
Okay, then don't worry about it. Never mind. But that's cool though. I mean, those are big deals, I guess. Like gas stations are big corporations that do well. So it's like you're entrusted with a big aspect of them being their website. And what do you do now? You're designing websites and coding and stuff like that for people.
Yeah, so I am doing some contracts on some mobile apps, working on front end for those. I am actually taking a course on a few different things. I'm taking a few different courses, not for my degree, but just to brush up on some coding skills. I am releasing 3 albums this year. So,
wow. Is that for like each of the incarnations? You got your, I think Eden the Cat, right? Is how the one project also, and then Orphan Mothers, or are they all for one thing?
Yeah. So they're for different bands. So Orphan Mothers is releasing in June, a full length album. Also is releasing at some point in the near future, probably before summer still. And then my other band, which is like grunge band that I haven't like really put on the internet that much, but we've played a few shows. We'll be releasing something in September.
Cool. Yeah. That's a lot of music.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of different music too.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd actually until like late 2014, early 2015, I only ever had like an acoustic guitar, and that's all I would play. And then I started making electronic music with John, and then decided I wanted to learn how to do production. And now I was cleaning my office, and I have so much gear. It is so ridiculous, just because I like found myself being inspired by like making different types of music. It's like I went from one acoustic guitar to what I can see right now is 3 guitars and a bass, a whole bunch of like production equipment, 2 amps, and it's just like, over
the span of what, 2 years, a year and a half?
Not even, like
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I think I have a problem, and then I'm gonna try to move across the country at the
Oh God.
in the fall after we're done tour, and it's just like, oh, well, that was stupid.
Yeah, moving all that stuff's gonna be real fun.
Oh,
Where are you moving to? Still, it's within Canada. You said across the country.
in Canada, still not announced.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, no, don't worry.
Don't work.
And you say you're doing a tour?
Yeah, I'm doing a few tours this summer. Orphan Mothers is going to be touring through all of Canada, and also is doing a West Coast tour with a band called Firestarter, and so I'm pretty excited about that. So I'll be on tour for most of May through August.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does that work with the job?
Well, I work remotely already, so I can
Cool.
kind of work wherever I want.
There you go. Are you worried about falling apart? Because that's a lot, working remotely and then touring and playing shows and all that.
I mean,
or are you pretty good with that stuff?
I mean, I travel all the time and work, and I'm already like one of those people that's too busy for their own good.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna do it, and if I burn out and end up in the hospital,
be more positive.
That's what free healthcare is for, right?
I wish, man, yeah, you can do that. You can afford to do that in Canada. People do it all the time here, but they just end up being in the hospital for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
But they're paying, and no, it's not fun.
Just to say, like, going to the hospital in Canada, not fun. Still not fun.
No, I'm sure. Usually it's still for a reason that is you're in pain or injured or sick in some kind. But no, I have family friends in Canada, in Alberta. That's why I've been up there to visit them, and we often talk about how they just have it better in that way, and it makes me sad sometimes. But so what was the process after you dropped out? You were working for Vox, and were you making music at that time too?
Yeah.
I believe you said you were.
Yeah, I started working at Vox in like June or something of 2014, and then I released an album in September. So I was making music pretty heavily then, and then but my music started to like really snowball and kind of took over my life, and so then I decided. I left Vox and I started focusing on music while like kind of building my own business, doing these contracts and stuff. And so the past 2 years have been a little bit nuts.
Yeah, and because I came across Amateur, right? That was in 2014 that you put out. I think you had some IGN pals tweeting about it or something,
I did.
And I was like, oh, cool. And then I listened to it, and I was like, oh, this is great. And so that's how I became aware of you. But when did you start the podcast with Jimmy?
Oh God, I think late 2013. Yeah, it would have been late 2013. Okay. We started podcasting together. We had another podcast together with another host that it didn't work out, and then we stopped doing that and started Jimmy and Eden. I think very early 2014.
And so, what do most people like know you from? Like I said, I came across the Amateur link to Bandcamp or whatever, but do most people know you from the podcast? Like, is that generally what the follower base is from?
No. It's so mixed.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of people that know me through the games industry, even though I'm not really part of the games industry. I just have
how did that happen?
The podcast,
like the IGN friends and stuff like that.
Podcast and music and just making stuff all the time and like meeting people through different friends. Like it's just one of those things that happens. They're my friends, right? And not just like I don't even really play video games, so it doesn't really make sense.
I love that.
Yeah. And then, I like working at Vox, I made friends with people at Polygon, so that even like furthered that. And then, there's a lot of people that know me through music. There's a lot of people that know me through some of my writing that I've done, just different jobs I've held, different places I've spoken. Like I try to, I'm taking a little bit of break from traveling to finish these albums now that I'm back from like my last big trip. But like I try to be in a different city each week, so you meet a lot of people that way. And luckily, I've built an audience that I like really care about, and I can really interact with and do cool shit for.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it reflects what you do. Like you do a bunch of different things, and so a bunch of different people got on board with that. So
yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm really, really grateful. I never really imagined that would happen.
Like having an internet presence like that, like being a personality, as they call it, a content creator or whatever. I don't know what the terms are. I
mean, like I studied computer science and I focused a lot on music. I never really thought that like I'd be, basically like a internet marketing wizard.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting to see the proliferation across different mediums that you have. Because, like I said, I was aware of you through the music, but then I'm like, oh, she does all this other stuff, which is interesting. So you were working at Vox, you stopped and you were doing all this stuff. What was the path like after you were done with Vox? Like, why did you leave there?
Well, I left to focus on music and to focus on my art and everything. Orphan Mothers ended up like starting to work on our new stuff. I released an album right after that an EP called Live in a Basement Apartment. And then I started two other bands. And then I just started to write and do a bunch of different things, really focus on performance, and travel a bunch. So it's like, I feel like I haven't actually gotten anything done that's like, that I can show except for that EP. But there's like a lot of stuff coming out this year. So it's just been like a lot of getting ready for that.
Right. What were you mentioned that you've spoken at places. Is that what you were traveling mostly for, or what was the traveling just for fun? Like, what was the traveling and that thing?
I've been taking a lot of meetings for a lot of different secret projects.
Got it.
So like I just got, and since I'm flexible in terms of my location when I'm working, I can kind of like mix pleasure and business.
Right.
So like I had to go to San Francisco for a bunch of meetings. So I stayed like for a full week with my friends, and then I traveled up to Portland and stayed there for a week and took a couple meetings, and then went to Seattle for a few days to relax, and then went to Vancouver, had a couple meetings, then went to Saskatoon, had a couple meetings, came home. Then I had to go back to Saskatoon for a couple meetings. So it's just like, it's just kind of a thing that I do. I like traveling. I like seeing people face to face. I like getting hugs. So I try to travel as much as possible.
That's great. I should probably do that more. It sounds like it's a fun. It's a good thing to do.
It's super fun. It's definitely like one of those things that I realize I'm very privileged to leave that lifestyle.
Yeah. Because I just got back from New York City for 10 days, and that was like the first time I've flown in 10 years.
Oh, jeez.
Something like that. Last time I had flown was up to Canada. So like, I don't travel very much, and so that's probably something I need to start doing. It's not necessarily for lack of being able to. I mean, I don't like. I could if I wanted to, but I just haven't very much. But what was the speaking engagement stuff you were mentioning too?
I speak at conferences every once in a while, mostly tech conferences. I haven't actually done it in a while. I was talking to my friends about that earlier this week, that I just like kind of stopped for a little while, but yeah.
What was the initial calling to that? Do you like public speaking?
I teach classes, and I love public speaking, and it's a really great way to learn how to do something, is to say that you're going to teach somebody how to do it. So like I would go, and I also, being the little shit that I was when I was 19, when I started public speaking, there was a tech conference happening near me. I got upset that there was no women on the speaker roster, which was rightfully so. So
yeah,
their solution was like, you speak, 19-year-old unexperienced person. So then I started speaking, and then I ended up speaking at like within that span of 2 years, like 20 to 30 conferences, and it was just like crazy. And then I got burnt out and stopped, but you know, I'll get back into it.
That's cool though. Just another thing that's that you do. Like and you said you teach classes too? Like is that part of the speaking or is that a separate thing?
That's a separate thing. I taught at the university for a little while. I taught and I taught workshops. Yeah, I feel like I'm not making any sense because I just like, oh yeah, I did this too. I did this.
No, it's you're making sense. It's just it's like discovering another layer. It's like, wait, back up a second. You also teach classes? Like it's funny that you do a lot of stuff. You sound like you're incredibly busy.
I am, and I like saying that way.
Yeah, that's the dream. I get to a certain extent. Because that's what I want to do. I want to be busy, but doing stuff like that. But so, what were the kind of backtracking to music stuff? What were some of the who were your people growing up with? Because you have you said you had the grunge band, you know, electronic music, and you did a lot of acoustic stuff, kind of very different stuff, obviously. But were there people growing up that were in those genres that kind of informed some of your love for that genre?
Okay. Oh boy. So I had a weird relationship with music growing up in that I always was kind of performing and loved it. I really loved pop music. Always. And I still love pop music. That's why a lot of my music is pop. Are
we talking top 40 stuff or?
Oh yeah. But also there's really great alternative pop bands
Sure. Yeah.
Now I would say I really like Young Galaxy. They're super good. Hot Chip.
Yeah, Chip. Okay.
They're super good. M83's new single that they released. Those are things that I listen to now. But I got super into hardcore and metal and punk when I was in grade 6.
I was gonna say, was it middle school?
Yeah, and that continues to this day. I was part of the community, and it was something really important to me. I met John, my bandmate, and Arthur Mothers through that scene.
Awesome.
I met so many people through that scene, and I am in a punk band now called Witchlips.
There you go.
But,
love punk.
And so, at that time, there was a lot of, I was really into As I Lay Dying and Killswitch Engage, but also Shipwreck, and there's just a lot of different hardcore bands.
Yeah, I noticed with the hardcore thing in middle school. Sorry to cut you off, but it's just that I had friends that were really into hardcore in middle school. There were these bands that I couldn't stand, right? That were in that genre. But as we got into high school, and they were like, "Hey, you should check out this band." That was still technically part of the hardcore scene or whatever. I'm like, "Oh, this is good." There was this kind of evolution in their taste or in the genre or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, but As I Lay Dying and Killswitch Engage, I can't really listen to them now unless I'm being a dummy. And those aren't really hardcore. Those are I don't even
borderline
post
punk bands
hardcore
or pop bands
meets metal.
Sure.
And then yeah, I got really frustrated though, and this seems to be a theme in my life. But I got really frustrated because every band that I listened to, because I was so into punk and hardcore and metal, was male-fronted, or there was very few women in playing. And then my friend Jay, he just sent me a whole bunch of music that was fronted by women.
Who were some of those people?
That was when I got into Metric and Stars.
I love Metric.
And
Metric's amazing.
Who else? Nico Case.
Nico Case is amazing.
And
is she Canadian?
Yeah, kind of. No, she's
was
American, but she was in the New Pornographers. She went to
right.
Vancouver. I met everybody through that. And so I started to get really into female-fronted Canadian pop, and then I I don't know. I've always kind of had like these moments of branching out, and then I got really into folk music. I really liked Bowerbirds, Chapin Galen, Iron and Wine at one point, Tallest Man on Earth, Fleet Foxes, all that stuff. It's always it's always been like kind of an ebb and a flow. Right now, all I listen to is really upbeat pop music lately because I'm always working and I need the extra energy.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like I feel like I'm pretty one of those people that's been very, very diverse, and I'm very grateful for that.
Well, what if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 24.
So, when you were like coming up through middle school, you're a few years older than me. What was the big stuff? Were you in line basically? You say like top 40, but were you in line with like what everyone else was listening to?
Okay, so middle school, what is that?
I don't know.
Like grade 6?
I say middle school, but I just mean even when you were like really like I say middle school because that seems to be when everyone kind of either comes into their own like musically, like they form their music taste, or it's the opposite where they're like they listen to a lot of stuff and then they realize, oh, I don't actually like that, So that's what I always say middle school, but I don't know. That's like what 13, 14?
Yeah. Okay.
12, 13, 14.
So I remember in grade 6, I think I would have been 12 then, buying an Avril Lavigne CD. That was the first.
Yeah.
That was the first CD I'd bought. I had tapes already, but like cassettes. And then I got into Evanescence at one point.
Yeah, they were big, man.
And then
they were huge.
And then I was also going to church. I decided to rebel against my atheist parents by becoming an evangelical Christian.
Well, that's okay. That's the opposite usually of how that happens.
Yeah,
but.
And then I got into like some like Christian hardcore was a thing then. So bands like Means, and then I found
Lamb of God or something.
Yeah, I didn't listen to them, but Thrice was big. And then
are they Christian?
They're all or they're like there's Christian tones to it.
Sure, okay.
Debate. And then and then
because I listened to them and I never realized that. But okay.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, that kind of makes sense.
And then that's when I started leaving the church. I still like had a taste for that music, and that's when I got into like As I Lay Dying, and then would go to like Sounds of the Underground tour or Taste of Chaos tour, and like see bands like In Flames or. I think I saw Taking Back Sunday at one of those, and Deftones at one of those.
Yeah.
And so then I would branch out from there, and then that's when I got mad at there'd be no ladies, and then had that big pivot. But yeah, it was a lot of dude bands when I was in grade 7 and 8.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that genre, or I guess even the industry, is a lot of dude bands, which is, unfortunate. But, So you said that that's like a common theme. You notice that in tech, I'm assuming is like that, male-dominated. Mm-hmm. And you notice that in music. How was that like manifested with you? Like, is it mostly just kind of a personal thing? Like, you said you pivoted towards female-fronted bands and stuff like that. But have you noticed that like all your life?
I mean, I'm a entertainment personality on the internet of some sort. Mm-hmm. That is a lead guitarist and producer in bands, who is a programmer, who does video game stuff. Like, those are all things that are like very like, especially in the media, shown as dominated by men. Sure. There are obviously like other industries that are dominated by men, but these are the ones that are like, yo, what's up?
Like cliched, like stereotypical, like bro things.
Yeah,
I feel like.
Yeah. Like I guess I think I was like 19 or 20. I started to like really take action against it. I started to like organize programs like Ladies Learning Code and Girl Dinners and doing all this stuff, and then kind of evolved from that to like just working on a lot of culture things, like what can we do so that we don't have to have these separate Ladies Learning Code events that we can just teach people how to code and women are going to feel just as welcome as men. What can we do with our culture for that? And I've been doing that, or like focusing on that in terms of research and activism for the past like year or so. Looking at like how can we make shows like concerts more of a safe space? How can we make conferences more of a safe space? And a lot of the time, like those have huge crossover. Whether it's in video games or music or tech. So that's kind of where I've been putting my weight. Not saying that like having like ladies learning code or anything is like not a good thing, because it's a great thing. It's just I don't want it to be necessary. So
you don't want it to have that.
That's where my energy
goes. That like separation idea, or like I don't know the term I'm looking for, but
I think you're looking for segregation, but it also feels weird to say segregation.
Right, but yeah, also segregation kind of, but not like, but like that. I understand what you're saying, but that's totally like that's awesome. I'm writing a screenplay right now, which will probably go absolutely nowhere, but I want to write it anyways. And I was telling my girlfriend about it, and she was saying, you know, what gender is the main character? And I'm like, a guy. And she's like, you should make it a woman. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, sure. And I was like, I probably want to keep it a guy. But then I was thinking about it. I'm like, why do I need it to be a man? Like, it doesn't need to be a man. And there's so many stories that are told about men and by men that I felt like I needed to. So I've been revamping it to be about a woman, because I think that's a more interesting story that is not, that perspective isn't always told quite as well. So it's working. You know, that's what I'm trying to say, is that like, you know, I'm just like some stupid white kid from, you know, Phoenix, Arizona, that, you know, I have a very strong single mother, but, you know, sexism and feminism don't really factor into a lot of people's brains like that, you know, consciously. Even if they think it's right, they just don't think about it like that. So
yeah,
it's good that you're fighting the good fight.
I mean, the fact is like, I'm a woman, so it is a thing that affects me hugely. It affects men too, but like,
sure.
I also like, not to be like dismissive of the fact that like I'm a white woman, I have a ton of privilege. But like, there's things that happen that make you like pretty much have to acknowledge what work is being done and what work needs to be done in order to get your work done. Right.
Yeah, and you've like tweeted out stuff of people messaging you stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
Like awful shit, and I'm like, that is, and that kind of stuff is like my girlfriend isn't very familiar with video games or the video game industry, but that's what she thinks about. Like that's what she thinks the video game industry is like, and it kind of is, you know. So that's kind of the kind of stuff that I really want to, you know, kick the shit out of. Let's get rid of that. Yeah. Let's end that stuff.
Of course.
Because like, especially the games industry stuff, like a couple years ago, like when that stuff was happening, my girlfriend, knowing that I work somewhat in that field, was like, why are so many people like that? And I'm like, I don't know. And it's pretty awful. But anyways, that was a kind of a side tangent there. But so we were talking about music and things that were influencing you. What was the electronic music influence of Orphan Mothers? And
I think I got, so when Purity Ring first like got really popular, like I always kind of liked electronic music. I really like Röyksopp a lot, and Daft Punk. Like I never really got super deep into it though. And then I think I tweeted one day, I was like, I like Purity Ring a lot, just tweeting it, and then my bandmate John tweeted at me, and he said, well, we're in a chillwave band now. And so we started Orphan Mothers, and that's how it started.
Wow.
And then, like, as we were making this music, I got more into doing research, and I learned about Grimes and churches and Empress of and 100 Waters, and learning about all these different things. It's kind of interesting now because Orphan Mothers does not sound like Churches or Pretty Ring or anything really like that anymore. It's gotten a lot more guitar-y and hip-hop-y-ish. I don't even really know. It's just like it started to evolve into being, like Orphan Mothers rather than
exactly.
Like, we're going to make this thing. Let's see what happens.
Right.
I'm really excited.
That's the best kind of music, though, that escapes definition like that.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's definitely a thing. I think I find myself being more and more drawn to it just because I'm producing beats too now, so a lot of the times I'm listening to music to hear, like, okay, well, what do they do with the kick drum? What do they do with timing? Where is this synth being placed in my ears? And, like, how are they creating a space? And so that's probably a lot of why I'm listening to a lot of electronic music, because mixing to that extent doesn't really happen quite so much with things that are being done with analog instruments and stuff, but...
Yeah, probably in any other genre, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like, it's just more difficult to do that, right? And have it sound normal.
Right. Yeah, I have, like, almost no experience with electronic music. Like, I mean, I listen to Daft Punk, I guess, and Animal Collective, and that's, like, the extent of my knowledge. But I enjoy it, and Orphan Mothers is really good stuff there. But it's interesting that you've had all these different influences. And what was also? Is that just you, or are you working with anybody else on that?
It's just me.
Okay.
Eventually, I'd like to collab with some other people. Probably actually bringing in different vocalists. But also, so when we started Orphan Mothers, we made the music, and John and I have this weird thing where we refer to music in terms of color, where, like, what color does it make you feel like? And Orphan Mothers, when we first started, with hindsight, it was very purple to us.
Okay. Yeah, and isn't that like the album artwork or the Bandcamp
everything's
artwork or whatever
purple.
it is? Yeah.
And that's because that's how it felt to us. So we decided, and that was like a lot of like me really pushing to make pop music because that's what I love, and John wanting to make like these chill beats, really dark and heavy things. And so I think on hindsight that came into like kind of a mishmash. It made it kind of cool, but it also like made things feel like a little bit weird and not authentic to us. So we decided to change our sound a lot, which you'll hear on this new album coming out in June. And we describe that sound as being blue.
Okay.
And
so is that sad or?
No, it's calming. It's relaxing. It's vibrant. I think it'll make a lot more sense when I can talk about it a bit more, and it's not kind of under wraps. But and then also is that kind of like bright purple dance, a little bit of pink to me. So it was kind of like we decided to make this other sound, and I still wanted to make those pop sounds, so I made also. And that's all me. I do all the production, I do all the mixing, all the singing, all the writing. And it's fun. It's definitely different. It's definitely a huge step in terms of like musicianship for me.
Yeah, like the can't think of the word, but the master of everything. It's like Prince or whatever. Like he records everything on every album he does or whatever. But you're doing everything, so it's I'm guessing challenging, a different level of challenge.
Yeah, it's a different type of challenge, but it's fun.
Yeah, I would imagine. You're very busy because now you're taking on all the responsibilities with another group. So all right, so you're going on tour soon, right? When is that?
We're going on a small tour in May, Orphan Mothers, and then we're starting our larger tour in late June.
And how much have you done any touring before? Have you played obviously shows before?
Yeah, I've played a lot of shows.
You've played a lot of shows.
Like 3.
But like locally, I mean, like have you gone out of Regina or anywhere around there?
Yeah, we played Winnipeg and Saskatoon, which are cities near us. we haven't toured extensively because A, John is a teacher, so he can't like go very far during the school year, and B, I was working so much that I couldn't do it. So now we have more of an opportunity to do so. But yeah, like right now I'm playing like 3 or 4 shows a month when I'm home.
Awesome.
But yeah, like this will be the first summer of touring. First time I'll like play outside of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Where like we'll be going through Alberta and BC, and then Toronto and all that later in the year.
Mm-hmm. Are you excited, nervous, both?
Both.
I mean, have similar emotions.
It's like one of those things. It's like, oh, this is part of my job now. Like this is like legitimately part of my job. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you? I mean, I would assume you enjoy performing in front of that live audience. Like you said, you love public speaking.
Yeah, it's like
it's an extension of that.
Yeah.
And what are the crowds usually like? Are they like people that know you, or are they just kind of like where have you been playing at? What the kind of venues?
Like. It varies. We play a lot of I guess music venue type bars where they have like a larger stage and like.
Okay.
It depends where we're playing. It depends. We do have like a pretty good audience here locally, and yeah, I don't know. It's like that's kind of a hard thing to describe. We've got just different. It depends on the show and the time of year and the other bands we're playing with.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of a vague question, but it's just it's interesting because I've talked to I think it's a little different with comedians where certain comedians will draw like a certain crowd, right, depending on like what their material is like. So I don't know if that's necessarily. I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be like that with bands or music. It's a little more universal a lot of the time, depending on.
That's true.
What it is.
We're like one thing is like we're like one of 2 or 3 electronic bands in Regina, and so but there's like a ton of like grunge rock and punk rock and indie rock, lots of rock bands here, and like we're really lucky to live in a scene where it doesn't matter what genre you're playing in. The music scene in general is very supportive of each other, no matter what the genre is. So we do have a lot of different music things happening.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome that you have that there. Like I guess most places I guess would have that. You just gotta search for it. But like you hear people talk about coming from places that didn't have a scene like that and they wanted to get out and find that scene. But it's cool that it's all there. It's already there for you. So what's the future, Eden? What do you have any ideas of like? Are you gonna keep the portfolio open like super wide? Or are you gonna focus on anything, or are you just kind of not that you're not focused on anything, but do you want to just keep how the balance is now?
I don't know. So I kind of gave myself.
That's a big question.
I gave myself 2016 to like be as unfocused as possible, but get as much done as possible.
Yeah.
Ask me in a year. I'll come back and I'll tell you.
Okay. Yeah, I know it's a very hard question to answer because I think most humans are like, I don't know. I don't know what's happening in the future, but well, it's great though because I love the music stuff, and I mean I listen to podcasts every once in a while. I'm excited to see what you do next with whatever you do. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for talking, Eden. It was a great conversation.
You too.
Was it good for you?
It was great for me.
Okay, because I know how that sounded, but I ask that every time because I feel like I can get kind of. Yeah, I know how that sounded. That's fine.
Sorry.
It's totally. I deserve that. No, I always ask that because I feel like I can go on tangents a lot because I'm not a prepared person. So, but
no, you're great.
It made sense.
Yeah, you're a great interviewer.
Thank you. Well, I wasn't fishing either. I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Sometimes I say some dumb things. But thank you to Eden for coming on the show. It was a great conversation, I think. Because I embarrassed myself, I forgot to ask her if she had anything she wanted to plug. But so just in case she did, her Twitter is at Eden the Cat. She's a Patreon as well. So check out that stuff because you should support artistry and people that do good stuff. So go ahead and do that. Next week on the show. All right, here's the sticking point. Next week on the show, I don't know who's on the show. So I'm peeling back the curtain here. Come on and look inside. Come over here. Let's go. All right, we're over here now. All right, we're over here. I don't have any other episodes. There will almost certainly be an episode next week because someone that I've wanted to have on since the start, really, is most likely going to come on. I don't want to say. Okay, I'll say. I'll say who's going to come on just because I think we'll make it work. Seth S. Scott, who's a friend of mine and who did the logo that you may or may not be looking at right now, the Butterfly Effect logo, and did the wonderful music for Butterfly Effect, and is a game developer in training. Heck, I'll just say he's a game developer. He's put out some games on the internet. I've played one of them. And he's done game jams and stuff like that. Seth is a talented dude. So I wanted to have him on and talk about all his talents. So let's say that's the next episode. And there's more, I've booked some more people and there's other things in the works. But, that being said, this does bring up a point that I want to address. And that's to, I'm really ramping up the promotion and the trying to get the word out about Butterfly Effect. And I don't know what that means yet, honestly. But this is, the show's small. And I've seen some good numbers from the show growing. The show is growing, which makes me feel good. But the nature of an interview show is that a lot of people, not a lot of people, but certain people don't want to come on unless there's a lot of listeners. And this isn't about, now we're getting into a sticky situation. This isn't about this is not fun or good unless I have a million listeners. But the nature of an interview show and the people I want to have on that usually have stuff to promote, is they want to see a listenership there, and that's just the nature of it. And that doesn't mean I haven't had a great time with all the conversations I've had so far, and that will have. But I do want the show to grow. So what that means is I just would really appreciate your help on that. So, you can check out all these different things here and share it through all these various things on Facebook. The podcast is a page there. It's Butterfly Effect Podcast. The podcast is on YouTube, Butterfly Effect Podcast, if you prefer to listen to it that way. I don't know how you're listening right now. I'm on Twitter at Ettletod, ETTLETODD, and then the podcast is on Twitter as well, Butterfly Pod. What else? You can email me at trettleman@gmail.com, trettleman@gmail.com, with feedback, suggestions, people you want to get on the show, whether you just think they'd be a good fit for the show, or you represent them, or you are them. That's cool. Email me. Or if you just have words, nice or not nice, I'll hear them. I'll read them. I can handle it, probably. Then, of course, the podcast is on iTunes. I don't know how you're listening, but iTunes, rate and review. The podcast is hosted on Spreaker. So you can listen to it on all those different ways. And I just appreciate any and all help I could get from you guys to share the podcast and spread the word. If you like an episode, share your favorite episode. You'd be like, hey, this conversation with Eden was amazing. Listen to it. Just saying that, even if you don't think you have a huge follower base or anything, it would be a huge help. So I'd appreciate that. In any event, though, I'm having fun. This is the thing that I like to do a whole lot because I like talking. I like the sound of my own voice, and I keep on rolling here because I like the sound of it. All right, I'm heading out. Have fun with your day. Talk to you later.